Hey guys, and welcome back to Shaking for Restoration. It's your girl, Lady Fanta. I know I haven't been to you guys for a couple of weeks, but this week I'll be sharing a blog about fear, how it distracts us, how it binds us up, how it throws us off course. I just want to share with you guys my testimony on fear. So join me this week at shakingforrestoration.blogspot.com. I can also be found on IG or Facebook under the same name, Shaking for Restoration. So join me this week as fear is our topic.
Girl, you set me on fire. Whoa. Every move I make.
Have these visions in my mind of a gift that's still inside. Can't believe my eyes. The moment has arrived.
I'm going into a place I find healing, a place of refreshing, where there is cleansing. I'm going into the water. A ripple of love, a current of peace, a flowing of joy. It's all in the deep. It's in the living water.
What's up, everybody? What's going on? It's your boy, Pastor D-Lo. We're here. You're there for July 29th, 2020, watching the River of Living Water. And well, thank you for welcoming us into your smartphones, your laptops, your iPads, your Android. Well, maybe not so much the Android, but thank you for welcoming us into your smart devices and allowing us to be a part of your night tonight as we prepare to go live tonight. Or well, we are live on the River of Living Water as we continue our discussion about the role and the evolution of women in ministry. So, as always, we invite you to like, share, comment, be a part of the conversation on tonight. We invite you to like, share, comment, share this video out, like the video. This is what I need. Don't send up hearts and likes. We can't see those. But the way the Facebook algorithm works is the more that you react to something. Thank you. There's one. I feel like an auctioneer doing an offering. There's one. But you can go ahead and like, share, invite people, tag. The more you comment, the more you do those things, the more it gets shared out to more people. And with it getting shared out to more people, we get to get our platform out to as many people who need it. And trust me, these conversations that we're having are needed to be had. So we're grateful for each and every one of you that have tuned in. As you're sharing, as you're inviting, stay with us. We got a great show for you today. First, let me say, our guest from last week, our elder Jonai Heyliger from Smyrna Tabernacle, is not with us on tonight. We continuously to pray for her, but I promise you, we got a dynamic guest for you, and we're going to introduce her in just a moment. But just before we do, it seems that my co-host, who is late, has popped into the backstage area. So, Pastor Shamel, what's going on, sir?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I apologize for my little tardiness. I had to do some family things here. So I'm just ready for the show, man. I'm ready for the surprise guest. I'm ready. It's even a surprise to me, y'all.
Great. I'm glad you're ready for it. We're all ready for it. Our guest tonight is my friend. She's my sister. She's a woman who wears many, many hats and does many different things. She's a dynamic woman of God, an amazing preacher. She's the wife of my friend since childhood, who was an elder at their church. She is the youth pastor of the Full Effect Gospel Ministries. I'm talking about, but just very recently, we have to add CEO to the line of what she does. Before I go any further, let's not forget that she's also the CEO of the Manicured Hands brand. Please, when you get off this live, not now, stay with us right now. But after this live, I want you to go to the Manicured Hands page on both Facebook and on IG. Like the page, follow the page. She's got great tips for you women who like to work with your hands. Well, she'll talk more about that a little bit in just a moment. I'm talking about my sister, Shamel Freeland. Shamel, what's going on, my sister?
What's up, brother? Thank you
How
so
are
much
you?
for
How are
having
you? Good
me.
to see you on tonight.
I'm great.
Bless you, Pastor Cox. How are you, sir? Good to see you on tonight. So tell us about the Manicured Hands brand before we jump into this conversation.
Okay, Manicured Hands is a woman's modern guide to homemaking. And so, women had to rush out into the field and start working and doing all of these other wonderful things so they can contribute to the home financially, which is totally understandable and acceptable. But there's still during this pandemic, there are a lot of women that had to go back into the home and learn how to run and manage the home and work at the same time. And so, Manicured Hands was birthed out of that experience. It is also I give tips and guides and things on how to prepare dinners and how to get schedules together and how to administrate the household. Be beautiful, administrate the household, take care of the husband, take care of the kids, take care of everything, and keep yourself at the same time. And so we have a plethora of ideas and DIY projects, some which you see behind me, that I actually did myself, to kind of keep your home beautiful and keep yourself beautiful, and just set a loving atmosphere for your home.
Awesome. And so we invite you to check out the Manicured Hands brand immediately following this live. Again, don't leave us here. Stay with us right now. But after this live at about 11 o'clock when we're done, we want you to check out the Manicured Hands brand. So we welcome in our Pastor Freeland to join this conversation. As you know, this has been a very testosterone heavy show the last several weeks, because we've had a lot of my great male friends on it. But the Lord dealt with me as far as dealing with women in ministry and the different things that come along with being a woman in ministry. And so we want to talk to our Pastor Freeland about being a woman in ministry. And so and the evolution of that process as she's seen it. Now, she is someone who can speak with us. How long have you been a youth pastor now at full effect?
I have
Forever,
been,
right?
Yeah, I don't even remember. It's almost 20 years though. Like not as a youth pastor, but as a youth leader.
As a youth
Um,
leader, right?
at my church, I've been in ministry for about 20 years, almost maybe 20 years now.
So, guess this woman is not a novice concerning what we're about to talk about. She's a perfect candidate here because she's gone through the evolution of what ministry was 20 years ago to where it is now and how women have evolved. So again, like, share, comment. We want to see your comments. Let us know that you're here, that you're watching. Thank you for that next like that just came up. So just continue to do so. And let's dive right into it. So, Pastor Freeland, how did you get into ministry in the first place?
I was asked to help the young people at my church to do a dance, right? I was fresh out of the club, and one of the youth leaders at the time, she came to me and she's like, "Oh, youth night is coming up, and the girls need to know how to do a dance. Do you know how to praise dance?" All I heard was dance. I don't, whatever the praise part, we'll figure that out in my mind. I'm like, I'll figure that part out, but I do know how to dance. And so I got the kids together and I taught them this dance to Hezekiah Walker, one of Hezekiah Walker songs. It was real jazzy, real hip hop, because that's what I knew. And they loved it, and the kids were so excited, and the parents were excited. And then next thing I know, they were like, "So we need you to be a youth leader." And I was like, what does that mean? And I had no idea what it meant. And so I had to learn while I was in this position. I had to learn what it really meant to be a leader of young people. I made a lot of mistakes. I learned through trial and error. I did some things that were a little too worldly, too risky. They weren't really ready for it. And so I've learned evolution is also a major part of ministry. So what they can handle, what youth can handle today, or what you may want to expose them to today, they may not can handle. And so timing is everything. And so I had to learn all of that we have to evolve into certain places. And there's certain foundations that have to be set before you can evolve into these other places. So I was kind of thrown into youth ministry, and I'm glad that I was, because it really is a place in the church that a lot of people see as that everybody wants to be a youth leader for some reason. But the youth leader gets accused of everything in the church. So if the kids start smoking weed, it's because you didn't tell them something or you didn't teach them enough about holiness. If the kid get pregnant, it was because you didn't tell them to abstain enough. And so what I started doing was going to the girls after we had a couple of young ladies that got pregnant, in their teens. So I started going to them straight. You better not get pregnant, and I'm not playing with you. Like, the Bible says this, but I'm telling you, you keep your integrity, you keep yourself together. And so I just started having real conversations with them, and that pandemic, that epidemic, it stopped in the church. And so I would kind of use scare tactics to get them along because the word wasn't enough, unfortunately.
Wow.
The word wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to tell them that holiness is right or to tell them to abstain and to let them know that sex is for your husband and it's not for your boyfriend that you go to school with every day. That wasn't enough. So I kind of had to use real life experiences and tell them about STDs and tell them about real
Wow.
life stuff. And those were conversations that were not being had in church because then if you tell them about sexual diseases and condoms, then you're almost condoning it. And it's like, I'm not condoning it. These are conversations that they need to have because they're having sex. So the
Wow.
ones that are abstaining, let's give them the pats on the back and kudos and tell them like you're the real MVP. But the ones that are struggling, let's give them tools, not to encourage them to do it, but to educate them on what they're doing and the risks that are attached to what they're doing.
So the follow up to that would be obviously, quite honestly, like you said, you were thrust into it. So when you started having these real conversations, how did the church receive it?
Some people felt like I was being too real. Some people felt like that was too worldly. Some people felt like it was too much or whatever. And so I had to deal with a lot of criticism. I had to deal with people saying she's not saved enough to be running the youth department and things of that nature. So I went through all of that. And it only made me better. It didn't make me stop because my focus wasn't on the adults that felt like they had it all together or the people that were judging me. My mind was on the result, getting them to get a real practical life experience with God so that they can change. Because me just giving them a scripture or me just telling them or me encouraging them, those things all coupled together, I felt like was beneficial. But I also saw that if they was to have a real relationship with God, when I'm not around, when their mother and fathers are not around, when the bishop and the pastors are not around, then you will see more results from them.
Wow. So that is an absolutely amazing testimony of where you came from starting off with young people and dealing with youth ministry to where it comes now. Pastor Jamel, hearing this from the perspective of someone like Pastor Freeland, who you also know for a good amount of time as well, what does it say to you as a pastor as to where the disconnect has been? You speaking as a man to where putting this youth pastor in place, her being a woman and her having the difficult conversations. What have you seen have been some of the obstacles for someone like herself who is being able to handle youth ministry as a young woman who is learning ministry herself?
I think that a lot of times, especially if you serve a male pastor, your perspectives are a little different when it comes down to how you want to see the youth trained up, because you're a male, and being a male, you view things in one perspective, especially if you're an older male, you view things in one perspective, and it challenges you to view things in another perspective on how to train up the younger generation, because it's like now, especially you're working against two things. You're working against the difference of the eras, and then you're working with gender differences when it comes to the leadership, if the leadership happens to be a woman, such as Shamel is. And what happens is within the leader, you become challenged because now you have to say, okay, how do I balance myself, balance letting go and trusting leadership to someone outside of myself, and then also trust the fact that even though I don't see it through your eyes because I can't because I'm a male and you may be a woman, it's two different perspectives. So a lot of it deals with trust. A lot of it deals with trusting and trusting God and trusting yourself and trusting the leader that you've chosen to balance those things. It's a huge balancing act because we as males we have egos, especially males from the older generation. We're younger pastors. When we're dealing with males from generations such as Bishop Keaton was, or Bishop Brown, or we're dealing with a very male dominated, male, dare I say, chauvinistic period. But with in this generation, we're a little more liberal in our thinking, and so it makes it a little bit easier for us, but maybe harder for them, and therefore they have to deal with the challenges within their own egos, within their own perceptions, within their own ideas on how things should run. So it's that's a very layered conversation. That's a very layered conversation.
Absolutely. So we're talking about leaders that came from the baby boom generation, those leaders that you mentioned by name, Pastor Lewis, Pastor Freeland. How has been your relationship with trying to navigate the disconnect between the baby boom generation and the millennial generation that's now coming up behind us now? We would technically, the three of us would be considered Gen X. I'm not going to tell our ages, that's not everybody's business. But we would be considered to be Gen Xers. Because we are Gen Xers, we have
you're having some technical difficulties.
Are you able to hear me well?
No,
it's
distorted.
Very distorted.
Distorted? Okay, I'll figure it out. We'll work with it. Let's do this. Because I want to get this question out. I think
This question is so very important. Okay, how are we now?
Great.
Guys, good. All right, awesome. So I think for those of us who are Gen Xers, we are in a unique position in terms of being in church. Pastor Jamel and I have literally been in church all of our entire lives. And Pastor Freeland, you've been in church for a very, very long time, if not your entire life. And you've been in leadership on some capacity, maybe not as a pastor, but as a youth leader now for 20 years, just about. So with that kind of experience here on this particular live, the question then is, Pastor Freeland, how difficult has it been for you bridging that gap as a leader between what the baby boom generation believes women's roles or young women's roles in ministries should be versus what they are and what they are forming for this millennial generation?
Oh my God. Okay, so that is such a good question, and it's such a real thing because I've experienced. It wasn't the men that I had issues with; it was the women. Okay, it was the women that kind of tried to stress me out to the point where it's like I had to prove that I was there to do the work of the Lord and not to do anything else, or to be disrespectful, or to try to take somebody's husband, or try to take somebody's man, or something like that. And unfortunately, that was my reality. But I navigated through that by listening to older leaders that was, keep your eyes on Christ, keep your eyes on the calling that is on your life, keep your eyes on the scriptures, do what the scriptures tell you to do, respond with being successful, don't respond with an attitude, don't respond negatively, be positive, go positive on every negative, and just being close to leadership and following vision, following my senior pastor's vision. And so it didn't matter if anybody had something negative to say about me, because I knew that I was following the vision of my bishop, my pastor. I knew that. So no one could accuse me and be accurate about their accusations because I was following the vision. And at any point, you would see that whatever program that I was putting together, whatever thing I was doing, it was always in alignment and well supported by my bishop, by my pastor. I never did anything on my own recognizance. I did everything, number one, by the leading of the Lord, and also by the permission of my leader.
As it should be. But then there are schools of thought, Pastor Jamel, where the generation coming behind us doesn't necessarily see the value in submitting to leadership, or even looking for the fathering or the mothering that should take place. And while there has been a lot of conversation regarding male pastors who maybe have stepped out and done various things, they seem to be at least universally regarded as being men of God who are just called and maybe do things different. But women seem to get a different kind of hue or different connotation as they're seen. As we see, I'm not going to throw any names, but you can go on Facebook and see a woman who may have a ministry where she's doing a live or something different. And if someone says that she's not, or someone doesn't believe that she's connected to one of these senior sages, then she's automatically deemed to be a Jezebel or a witch. Pastor Jamel, can you speak to why that mindset seems to be so prevalent in today's church and thought processes?
Well, I mean, number one, the number one answer that I'm going to give is because we still are dealing with a male-dominated church in leadership positions. It's male-dominated, and when you're dealing with that male-dominated situation, you're also dealing with a lot of ego. You're dealing with a lot of bias. Gender bias. You're dealing with it. You're dealing with a lot of control issues, because for years men have been taught that we are the leaders. We are those who should be in leadership positions. And so it challenges everything in us when we have to realize that even though men are in leadership positions, there were also leaders in scripture that were women. There were apostles that were women. And with that being said, there's a struggle within regular cultural norms, because the cultural norm within our culture is that men should take the lead role and women should be subservient. Now, when we understand that, we have to deal with, number one, the cultural issue that women in this day and age are now, most of them are breadwinners of the family. Most of them are raising families by themselves. Not most, but a lot of them are raising families by themselves. And then we also have to realize that some of these women have jobs that pay higher than the men. And of course, at the end of the day, we have to, when we take from the cultural and then we enter it into the religious sector has always been biased and prejudiced when it came to men and women. Men were the leaders. And with that being said, when you see women online, it's like, okay, did your pastor say? Okay, did you get permission? Oh, well, and you don't even just take a time out and go, maybe this is just a personal thing. I'm big on this. Of course, I think that everyone, male and female, should be accountable to someone that they say that they are in affiliation with when it comes to their ministry. But men can get away with things that women will struggle or cannot get away with in this male-dominated sector, because religion seeks to, at the end of the day, religion seeks to always have control. And because men are the ones who are in position, it is men who seek to have control. Always, all the time. And even when you don't mean to, just because you were socialized in that mindset, you have to battle with that in your mind. You have to battle with that in your own everyday living. And then what happens is you have women who struggle to have their voices heard because they do truly have ministry on the inside of them. They truly have something to say. They have a voice that will affect many other women and young men as well. But because of the male dominant side, it literally almost stifles the woman's voice, or we have this control over a woman's voice where it comes like a faucet. We get to turn it on and we get to turn it off. And that being it leaves women always in a struggle within the religious sectors. Even in our cultural sectors, it's women are always fighting to be heard. So when, and this is where I want to end it. So when women are heard, you have some women that take great responsibility with what they have fought for. They fought for it and they deal with it very seriously, and they take their time to really make sure all their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed. But then you do also have other women who, you know, for lack of a better terminology, who just feel like, well, we here now and I'm gonna do what I want. And so you have both sides. You have those women that really fought and are responsible and really are working to make this thing better and to even out the biases, to eradicate the biases. But then you have others who have gone out and just made a mess of it, just like men. Because to be honest, men have made a mess of the church for years. So it's
Pastor Jamel, I hear what you're saying. I just want to add to what you're saying. You're saying that men have made a mess of the church for years, but women, from my standpoint, there's been a lot of women that I know that have made a lot of messes of the church. The only difference is, I think, because they are women, it is not publicized, because I see a lot of men covering the women because they try to kind of put the fire out before it gets too big. And so you have a lot of young women, such as myself, younger women, that said, I don't want no parts of this because this is too messy. And if that's what it requires for me to preach this gospel, or for me to even push this gospel, I'd rather just work the backgrounds and not be in the forefront. But one thing about it is, when there's a call on your life, you don't have that choice to just work the backgrounds. Like, God always ends up pushing you to where you're supposed to be. But I've seen women make a big mess, and it's the men that had to kind of make that thing go away some kind of way, you know what I mean? And kind of sweep it under the rug so that it wouldn't become so major and so big. Because one thing about us as women, if we say the wrong thing, we can kill a whole church.
Wow.
I agree. And I agree with you. I agree with you. I just know, as a man, there are certain things that I cannot say, that I have to leave room for women to say.
This is true. This is true. You don't want to be like that bishop last year that was in there telling the women what bra to wear and all that crazy that was going on.
Really?
I said, what is happening? No, sir. Where the mothers in the church? Where's your wife? Somebody else. Anybody but you.
Right.
You better be the setup man.
Be the cleanup.
Let her knock it out the park.
Right. Just lay that in there for her. I think this conversation and where it's going is a perfect segue to my next question for you, Pastor Shamel, which centers around, as you said, being pushed to the forefront and being someone who started off in youth ministry, just kind of being an organizer, an administrator, a facilitator, but to now being, quite honestly, one of the dynamic young female voices that is in our city, if not the tri-state area, if not the country. And I mean, I don't say too much about preachers, because any Pastor Jamel will tell you we are I'm not going to talk for him. I'm going to talk for me. I'm very critical of preachers. Mm-hmm. I know he is too, but I don't want to get in trouble for talking for somebody else. But I'm very critical of preachers. And, for me, hearing someone like yourself and to hear your story of where you come from to where you are now, how difficult has it been for you in terms of your own personal walk, being pushed from that administrative kind of bringing things together role into one who is on the flyers, who is on the live, who is trusted by your pastor to preach on Sunday mornings? Because you know the youth pastor don't usually get to preach on Sunday morning. You get stuck with the youth services. You get a Friday night, but but I've seen Bishop McGinnis put you up on a Sunday morning. Like, I'm going out of town, Shamel, you got it. You know, so talk to me about that evolution and how you've had to deal with coming out of your shell and walking into the purpose that God has for you.
Just sitting at my leader's feet and just gleaming from him and really praying and just saying, you know, praying. My prayer has always been, Lord, help me to know my pastor's heart. Let me know what his vision is, like outside of him just getting up and talking about it in the church meeting. But when he talk about it, help me to understand it on a whole nother level, enough so that I'll be able to execute it. And that has always really, really been my prayer. So I've sat under him and I've listened to him and I've also gleaned from him. And if I don't know something, he'll tell you, anybody else will tell you, I'll ask questions until I understand it. So I'm always very humble. I'm very, very humble, especially when I'm learning something. And so I will never get up and preach what I think. And that's something that he taught me. Don't preach what you think, preach what the word says and back it up with the word. And so I was able to feel comfortable with going to another level and assuming more responsibilities because I knew what I knew and I was confident in what I knew because he didn't just throw me. He literally behind the scenes was molding and spending time with teaching and showing and not just telling us what to do, but also modeling for us what to do. So he showed us when you go somewhere, you have integrity. So if somebody invites you out to preach, you have integrity. You be a blessing to that house, not just financially, not just through preaching the gospel, but also by giving into that ministry, seeding into that ministry. Don't go anywhere just to take. But everywhere you go, make sure that you give something to God's people. And so one of the things that he tells me every single time is, daughter, go bless God's people. Go bless God's people. And so that always stuck with me. And it was easier for me to transition into more responsibilities because I kept God as the forefront. It's not the Shamel show. It is not, I'm gonna go preach these people down. I don't even talk like that. Like behind the scenes, I don't even talk like that because I feel like that is like, whoever do it, you do it, whatever. I'm not judging you. But for me, I feel like I'm stepping out of humility. You know, if I start saying, oh, I killed, or, you know, whatever, I'll say that about another preacher, but I won't say that about myself because I always feel like, God, I hope you got the glory, right? I hope that somebody was truly blessed. And that is really my heart in that aspect.
Wow. That's an amazing thought and an amazing testimony and a true testament to the humility of your life. For those of you who are just joining in, we're talking to youth pastor of the Full Effect Gospel Ministries here in Brooklyn, New York, Pastor Shamel Freeland. We're discussing the evolution of women in ministry. Like, share, invite people to it. We want to welcome your comments, your questions. If you have questions for Pastor Shamel, if you have questions for Pastor Jamel, we want you to share your questions, particularly you women preachers who are on here that think you got a ministry and that God is growing and developing and getting you to the place. You might have some questions that we want to answer. No question is too difficult or too crazy. Pastor Freeland has been prepped, she knows me. I'm her brother. She knows how I give it up. I don't intentionally try to be controversial, but I'm willing to ask the hard questions because we need real answers. And, you know, sometimes we ask diner questions here, you know, the stuff that only happens on a late night at Lindenwood after your Friday night service. We talk about it here on the River of Living Water because we want to get these things out and open because we believe it's going to help somebody. So with that being said, we've talked about this evolution of your own personal walk in ministry. For those of you who don't know, Pastor Freeland, again, is not only a preacher and a youth leader, but she's also a wife and a mother, as well as being a CEO. How has it been juggling all of the things that God has kind of dumped on your plate, but still maintaining your place in your home? Help the women who are on here that are maybe trying to figure out if they have to choose between ministry and family.
You don't have to choose. You just have to know. You have to know where each thing where it lies. So there has to be a hierarchy. There has to be, you have to know that your husband is the head of the house and God is the head of him. And then you have your children, and then you have ministry, and you have to put things into their perspective, and letting everyone else know in your world that you value them where they are by putting that attention that they need. You cannot give more attention to one and not enough to the other. You have to
Mm.
learn how to give attention to everyone the way that they need it. If my husband needs for me to make his dinner, he needs for me, and this is real talk, this is a real true story. He needs for me to, he's working midnight. So I don't care what I'm doing throughout my day. His lunch, his dinner needs to be packed in his bag with everything nicely put together for him when it's time for him to walk out that door. I
Wait, say
can't
it again.
say,
Say it again. Help these women out. Help them. Help them.
you're gonna get me in trouble.
No, I'm not gonna. But I mean,
I don't care though. No, I don't care. I don't care. You know I don't care.
I know, but I say it on tongue in cheek. But the truth of the matter is, we've come to a place where there's been such an evolution that if you believe the Bible to have some truth, the nuclear family or the specified gender roles according to the word of God, which doesn't diminish your anointing, which doesn't diminish who you are being pushed aside now, and marriages are breaking up because the woman is going to the nations and her husband just needs her to be a wife.
Right.
Talk about that.
So I've had to learn that, like, now I'm blessed to be home full time and raising the family and pouring more into the family. So when I was working full time for the Department of Education, I had to come home, still cook, still make sure Naomi was good, still make sure everything was good, and not complain about it, and not feel like, well, you doing this. He works full time too. He's a detective for the New York City Police Department, working for cities. Both of us being in a city, we both had demanding jobs. So I couldn't complain. He couldn't complain. We just had to get the job done. And I think what helps is when you know that you're a part of the family vision. Like as a woman, you're a part of that vision for the household. So your husband is the visionary overall. The man of the house is the visionary. So he's going to put forth, listen, we're going to live a certain type of way. We're going to do this, and we're going to travel, or whatever the plan for the household is, which varies throughout households. You as a woman, I have a role to play. And overall, as a woman, we administrate in the household. So the husband will put that vision out there, and that woman usually is the one that'll go in and administrate and make sure that we pull things together so that that vision can come to pass. But one of the things that I think a lot of women forget to do is when we get burdened and we get overwhelmed, we become nasty, we become venomous, we become anxious, we become ugly. But we have to remember to have love and to push love. And if you need a minute to be able to saying, look, I'm gonna get to that, but just give me a minute. I need a minute. Let me get a minute to breathe or to do this or complete that, and then I'll get to this next task. Setting realistic goals in your house is important for your family, and not trying to be superwoman. I am not superwoman. So I might not be able to do everything in the time frame that I was asked to do it in. So I'm going to be honest and say, I can't do all of that this week, but I will make sure that by this date that gets done. And in the midst of that, I'm going to make, when he comes home, I don't look like a ragamuffin.
Not a ragamuffin.
Can't look like a ragamuffin. Look like something, okay? Because he done saw a whole lot of nice looking somethings on his way home. And when he get home, you should not look like a field slave.
Oh my God, not the
Should
field
not.
slave.
Can I tell you something? Real talk. My father got married. My father is 75 years old. My father got married after many, many years when he turned 70 years old to a woman that was in her late 50s. He married her because you're a younger woman, right? And you still got your shape. You still got yourself together. He got a couple of dollars. I'll splurge on you. Let's go wherever, do whatever. This woman, once they got married, she started wearing like these rags to go to bed in, wearing rags around the house, and just not looking good. And my father told her, I don't like the way you look. Could you please, them same beautiful dresses that you wear to church, could you wear those dresses or something similar to that when you come home? She
Wow.
can understand that. Needless to say, she is his ex-wife now.
Wow.
And I'm so serious because he was dead serious I'm at the end of my life. God only promised me 70 years. I'm at the end of my life. I am not going to look at, and he called her a field slave. I'm not going to look at a woman that looked like a field slave for the rest of my life. And no exaggeration, she is now his ex-wife. So I learned something from that.
That's great teaching. Pastor Jamel, speak to what Pastor Shamel just talked about.
I think it's very clear that women and men, that they must realize that once you get into ministry, that does not it does not relinquish the ministry that you have to do at home. In fact, your home is your first ministry, and you do your first ministry, you do your first works right, you know. And after you do your home ministry right, when you get into the church, you'll really be able to serve, because there's no contention in the home. When there's contention in the home, you can't serve in the church like you should, because your mind is torn, your emotions are torn, you're stressed out, and it just makes it very hard to work. So while you're in church and you preaching a great message, your wife is sitting over there looking at you like, look at this one. You ain't like that in the home. And the same can be said for women who are preachers and have men at home.
Very true.
Because one thing that I do know is in my early years of playing, while I was playing, I always played for male pastors. And then when I reached at a certain point, I realized I began to play for all female pastors, all women pastors. And I was like, there's such a difference. There's such a difference. Some women pastors that I played for, I held on I just held them in high regard. Mother Callie Jasper, she will always, God knows, that was a class act. Because even though being in ministry for as many years as she was in it, she always remembered her family. She always remembered how to serve her family. And that is big. That is huge, because when people look at her, there's nothing wrong in her home, so you can't spot her home. There's nothing wrong in the church, or even if there are some issues in the church, she has the wisdom to deal with the things in the church because of how she dealt with the wisdom of things at home. So I was like, I just held her in such high regard, and God knows, it's just so hard to believe that she's not here with us today, you know. But I've also served under women pastors who I was like, what in the devil is going on? What are you doing?
What are you saying? What are you teaching? What are you doing? Why are you keeping these people in church till midnight? What is happening here?
Yeah. Sometimes you like, even though I know you're the pastor, you can't outman me.
Right.
You can't outman me. I am a man. And yes, I will be here to help serve the ministry. But you still have to be careful on how you talk to me as a man. Because as a man, when a man is talked to in a certain way, it incites the warrior in him.
Wow.
And it's not to say that I was going to put my hands on a woman, but I showed up was like, now listen here, I know you think you pastor and all, but I think you better come better with the way you talking to me, because it's not gonna end well. I'll just leave and go somewhere else, you know. And that wasn't just for women, because you've seen me where I've had interactions with other people who had thought they could just say whatever they wanted, and it's been like, that's not happening. But I think more importantly, when it comes to women pastors, I just want women pastors to know you don't have to compete with male pastors.
No.
What you can do as a pastor, men cannot do. And what men can do as a pastor, women can't do.
Right.
So my thing is function in your strength. Function in your nurturing capabilities because no man can nurture a church like a woman.
Mm-mm.
No man can have the listening ear and counsel like a woman because there's a certain there is, I used to remember my mother would listen to certain things that I would say. My mother was the senior minister at my brother's church before he passed. And she just listened with a certain ear. There were certain particulars that she picked up that as a man he could not pick up because he just wasn't savvy in those ways. And even though as brilliant and as masterful as a pastor Bishop Reed was, mom still just had something that was it. A woman listens differently. She sees differently. She sees details that men don't see. Men, we will come to you. We will give women. Hey, listen. This is what I envision. I envision this. I see that we can have all of this, and the woman will sit there and work out the details on how to get all of that, because women are detailed oriented. And if we can just learn to function in our specific roles as men and women, things will really and then come together. Oh man, it would be a beautiful thing. It would be a beautiful thing. There's so much I can say about that because that thing is loaded. So I just don't want it.
Indeed, it is. So I think I'm ready to go there now.
Thank you.
I think we warmed up enough.
Yes.
To go there. So
Praise God.
Pastor Freeland, thank God for you and everything that you have brought to this broadcast so far, and I appreciate all of it. But there has been a major issue, particularly in church, and unfortunately prevalent in the Black church, where it comes to women in ministry and how they're treated both in and out of the pulpit. If you're comfortable enough, can you speak to how certain behind the scenes dealings have caused you to become frustrated with the ministry that God has given you?
I'm comfortable enough. I have behind the scenes, I've been treated extra nice by male.
Very politically correct answer. I love it.
I've been treated extra nice. I've been men have overextended themselves. And so you know when somebody is doing too much. And if I feel like you're doing too much, then I back up because I know how to entertain and how not to entertain. And so if I feel like somebody's doing too much, then I back up and I just won't entertain it. And without me having to have what are you really trying to do conversation with them, I'll just not entertain it, and hopefully they catch on that I'm not with it and they keep it pushing. But I've also had women that have treated me like I have an ulterior motive.
Wow.
Like I'm not just there to do the will of God, like they're there to do the will of God. I've had women to look me up and down and see what's what or whatever, or automatically, oh, she's a diva. Oh, and that's stupid because I don't think like that. I really don't think like that. I'm a homegirl. That's my personality. I'm more of a homegirl. Like I can kick it with y'all at the end of this show and it'll be whatever, but I'm not. People kind of give you this persona that you don't have. And if I like nice things or I look a certain type of way, don't mean you have to box me into what you think I am going to be. And I've had women to gather together and talk and be nasty and try to, oh, we don't want her in this circle type of thing. And
Mean
I'm okay.
girls.
Yeah, mean girls, and I'm okay with that because those girls really didn't. If you're that type of person, I don't like you either. I don't want to be a part of your little crowd, and your crowd is corny. Because people that act
And your
like this
crowd is corny.
is corny. That's corny. Because this is church. This is church. So why are you trying to create a in crowd, out crowd? Why? Why are you doing that?
We
It
got a
is with
co-signer that says you are a chill person.
thanks, girl. Thank you. So yeah, I'm just like not really. I don't. I've experienced the male and the female side, and you got some guys that go extra hard, and it's really corny, and then you have some girls, some women that do too much because they're insecure.
That's very
And
true. But
hmm
still, as a person, I know they tell us that we shouldn't internalize those sort of things. But how difficult has it been as far as you getting discouraged when these things have happened over the course of the 20 years you've been in ministry?
it has been very difficult. It has been very difficult, and in certain seasons of my life, it weighed on me a lot. It made me feel like, well, if that's what they think, I'm just not going to show up. I'm just not going to do this anymore because I'd rather have my peace than to have to fight a battle that is not even like my battle. I don't I know that I'm not trying to do anything negative or trying to be what they're saying that I'm being. And to have to deal with that many of days, I felt like I'm just gonna walk away and y'all can keep all of this. I don't care. I don't have to preach to nobody. I don't have to tell nobody. I could sit in these pews and just keep learning and I'll be fine with that. And so it has made me feel like dumbing myself down a lot of times, not going hard when I know that I could go hard because I don't want to draw that attention to myself. So I've dealt with that for many, many, many years. And in certain seasons of my life, it has caused me to almost miss the mark.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like because I was so focused on trying not to be who they thought I was.
Mm.
And so, no matter what I did, I would try to make sure that I am not showing any signs of being that person. Meanwhile, I'm missing doing my assignment.
How important is it for a woman in ministry, a young woman in ministry? Because I believe you're really helping somebody today. How important is it for you to find your identity, knowing who you are, both in God and in yourself, when you're met with these moments? Because no matter who you are, you're going to be met with those moments, whether you're short, tall, light, dark, whatever. You're going to be met with those moments, unfortunately. And the more notoriety you get, the more out on the platform you get, is the more opportunities there are going to be for this kind of discouragement. How important is it to know yourself?
I've learned something through those processes that those things help define me. Those things help me to understand who I am. Because I could have very easily um, went back to the old me and wanted to argue and wanted to fight and wanted to say meet me outside. I could have went to that girl, but it was those times when I had to defend my character that I realized that I had character, that I realized that I was growing in Christ, that I realized that I had to use the scriptures legit. Like legitimately, I had to use the scriptures to know that, though they slay me, yet will I trust God, no matter what. So, and I had to know the scriptures more than just having a self-awareness. I had to know the scriptures that would cover me in those days and cover my mind in those times, because if I didn't have that, I probably would have reacted or
Mm.
retaliated more than anything, because people have said some negative and nasty things. They made some accusations that weren't true. And, even if you caught me in a fault, I was expecting that as older women, that seeing a younger woman in ministry making mistakes, that you would come to me and say, hey, don't do it that way, because
Wow.
that's going to cause you to have to deal with this down the line, or that's going to cause you to have to deal with that. Instead, they gathered themselves together with other women that were older than me, and they talked about it to try to disqualify me before my bishop and the leadership. And so I had to know that they didn't call me. that God called me, and I had to know that I was called. Even if I made a mistake and they saw me make that mistake, or I fell short and they saw me falling short, that didn't determine or that didn't define me as a leader. It
Wow.
didn't define me as a leader. So many days I had to go back and rely on the word and have a good support system in the background. You got to have a support system that's real. You know, that'll say, you know what? That was dumb of you to do that, but do this to get yourself back together. Or don't try to find out, because Pastor and Bishop Designate, I asked myself several times, what did I do wrong?
Wow.
And I did nothing. What did I do wrong? And you know what? A couple of times talking to even leadership, older men, older pastors, older bishops, they said, Shamel, you didn't do nothing. You didn't do nothing wrong. That's jealousy. And jealousy is crueler than the grave. Jealousy is cruel. People, when they are jealous of you, and they could be doing better than you, but they're jealous of the notoriety. They're jealous that you're on the flyer this month and they didn't make the flyer, or whatever there is in their mind that matters to them. Because it doesn't seem like it matters so much to you, they conjure up stuff and they try to make you out to be a monster because they don't want you to be great.
Wow. Pastor Lewis?
I just want to say that last piece that you said, you just ministered to me as a male.
Wow.
Because I'm going through something right now where, now Bishop Designate will let you know, this year 2020 has been ridiculous, and I have been health challenged the whole year, in and out the hospital the whole year, almost died from COVID this year. Doctor told me, you will die if you stay here. We're going to send you home, and you might die if you go home. I couldn't walk this year. Recently, I lost my ability to walk for a few. And just hearing the last piece of what you said about the jealousy, about how people will target you for no reason. They will target you. It's what I call unprovoked attacks. And you sit there and you wonder, what did I do? What is it that, and some of these people are people you considered friends, who you considered brothers or sisters. And, I just wanted to thank you, because you touched on something right there that gave me a little extra to keep on going, because for those who don't know me as well, Bishop knows, whether I have a title or not, if I'm pushed too far, a whole nother side of me comes out. And you gave me strength to hold on just a little bit longer. So I want to thank you for that.
Wow.
Keep holding on.
I'll try. I'll say this, that women, and I always found it to be fascinating in a crazy kind of way. I would wonder, when you have women who are progressing the movement forward, why do you attack them when they are working to help you get to another area, another height in whatever career you're doing, whether it's preaching or whether it's in the secular world? Why do you fight so to tear down the next woman? Why can't you? I remember when I was a kid, I remember women would compliment women. Nowadays it's like it's crazy. She ain't nothing but a hoe. She ain't nothing. I know where she got that. She slept her way. And these are the women talking. And I'm like, wow, is this how y'all do it? Like, and in my head, as a man, I think women should understand that as men, we understand that if you'll tear each other down, you'll definitely tear us down. You're definite. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's I just yearn for women to be more supportive of women again, because you guys already have a tough role with the patriarchy, with the male chauvinism, with you already have a tough road ahead. So why fight against yourselves? And I think that it's especially in a time where and women have to fight even harder to be heard, because there are more genders according to society now. It's just not
Wow.
women fighting against men. Now it's women who have to fight to have their voice heard over LGBTQ
I
plus, and they have to fight through that to have their voice heard. They have to fight through rich white men, rich old white men who have power and money. They have to fight through black men who have insecurity issues based on how the government pit the black man against the black woman. It's so much that especially black women, because I love my black women. I love all women, but I love my black women. There's so much that you guys have to fight through. The way they portray you on TV, the way you're portrayed in these crazy shows, always fighting one another. And then those shows spill over into the church. I watch and see how some women, I watched just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not going to mention no names, but the both of you probably know who I'm talking about. I watched just a few weeks ago, very publicly on Facebook, a woman evangelist who claims to be a prophet was tearing down another woman who was a prophet, and they're calling each other witches. Witch this, witch that. You do this, you do that. You slept your way to the top, you did this. And I'm sitting here like, and then you want to pray for me? No, pray for yourself. Pray for yourself. Pray that God restores the heart of your womanhood. That God restores the heart of your sisterhood to women. Your wife has a show, and she deals with the sanctity of sisterhood. There is a sanctity in sisterhood, just like there's one for brotherhood. But since this is about sisters, men need to see strong women together. It's necessary. It's necessary to psychological healing. It's necessary. It's necessary. It's necessary because a lot of abuses that men have overcome, or that they cover up, that nobody even talks about, were from the hands of women who were hurt by men.
It's a cycle, and
It's a
at some
cycle.
point we have to break the cycle.
True.
Absolutely.
Very true. Just to speak to that really briefly,
Yes,
Pastor Jamel, I'm a woman. And I love being a woman. I never try to take on a man's role, and I think that's something that my husband benefits from, because
Amen.
I like being a girl. I'm not gonna ever try to walk around and take his role. I know my job. I had a grandmother that was a sanctified, Holy Ghost filled woman who loved my grandfather until the day that he died. When he died, 6 months later, she died of a broken heart, literally. So I understand.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really understand the role of a woman, and I embrace it. A lot of girls don't love themselves. That's why it's easy for them to beat down a man. That's why it's easy for them to beat down another woman. That's why it's easy for them to hate on another woman and call another woman a witch that's doing the very same work that they're doing. And if you feel like she's a witch, just disconnect from her. But there's a level of immaturity. There's a level of immaturity and control in the black women's society where we want to control the narrative of each other's lives, right? So if I'm a black woman and I'm doing this, I'm selling hair, and you're a black woman and you're selling eyelashes, you feel like I'm your competition. But the truth is, it's enough room for all of us to eat. And in church, you're in a small church because you're selling to sister on the left and you're selling to sister, and I'm selling to sister on the right. If you walk to the left, then you become a threat. I don't see any of my sisters as threats. I don't look at other women as a threat. And it's not because I think I'm all of that. It's because I know who I am and I know what I can do to help that woman. And if there's something that woman can do to help me, I want to be able to have enough a space around me where she can walk up to me and help me. And I believe that a lot of the problems that we see in church comes from women that are insecure, women that were hurt, that never healed, women look. Let me just tell y'all this. A lot of girls gonna be mad at me. I'm gonna tell you this. I cannot tolerate the woman that need to join heirs with another hurt woman. And
Wow.
that's why you get so no thank you, Naomi. She's giving me potato
She
so
thinks mommy's hungry.
yeah. So so that is why I think you see these big broad spectrums of women joining together that are networking. Thank you, Katrina. That are networking negative. Hurt women should not network with hurt women,
Wow.
and they do. They want to talk to each other about how bad that man hurt them. And then you get you a network going. And they on the phone, you're dogging your husband, dogging your man that you're not leaving. You ain't leaving him. Why are you dogging him to this girl? Why are you
Uh-oh.
dogging her to and you're gonna still talk to her? Why are you dogging her? And I don't think that we know how to have real conversations, because if I have a problem with you, I think if we have a relationship, that I should be able to call you and say, hey, I need to have a hard conversation and I don't even know how to start that conversation. Being able to communicate that is important, and it'll stop a lot of these petty fights that we see, especially in church. I've never seen so much petty before in my life besides in the church. And I grew up on the streets and in church. And I didn't even understand hate, to be honest, until I got to church. That's when I first experienced hate. And I mean, like, people sending me threats, people calling my phone, leaving nasty messages and
Wow.
telling me that they hate me. And I'm like, what did I do to you? What did I do? And so you those are real things that you, and if I didn't have love, I really had to counteract that to say, I'm never gonna be like that.
Right.
I'm never gonna do that. Shanna and the girls that was that's under my ministry, that came up under my tutelage, they will tell you I encourage them. I am not a hater. I'm not a hater. I encourage everybody because of what I experienced. So when you see a woman that's banding herself together to be negative and be wicked and want to down other women, it's really and truthfully what she's really saying is, I'm hurt and I haven't gotten over this and I need help and I need somebody to take the time to deal with what's happening to me.
Wow.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what do we say about the straight men who act just like women?
In what aspect? Because
Uh-oh.
In that
I can go
aspect, they just
in
talk so much. They talk so much. They literally scheme and plot to pull down other men like
I
little
think
women.
that
And
they're
I look
not
and I go like, what has happened?
they're not
Right.
secure. They're not secure in themselves as a human being. Like, that's not gender. That's human nature. When a human is not secure in themselves, they spend time tearing other people down because the way they feel is their norm and they want that to be everybody else's norm. that negative feeling, that's their norm. I had somebody that wanted to argue with me all the time. And I'm like, why are you so argumentative? But come to find out, he had an argumentative wife. And that became their language.
Wow.
So this person and these people that want to talk all the time and want to be negative all the time, they probably come from a very negative background, and now they met you and met whoever else, and they don't know how to turn that off. They don't know that they can be regular with you. So they're bringing their normal selves to the table, when their normal is not normal outside of their circle or their family. And just the same way that we have to like teach people how to love us when we're in relationships, we have love languages. I think we have to teach people how to even just like be around us and be right. Check people nicely. It's okay to say, bro, I kind of feel like you always got something to say, and before it goes someplace else, let's have a conversation. Like, tell me what's up.
Wow.
I don't need to try to figure you out. Let me ask you, what's up?
I'm trying.
Pray much for Pastor Jamel.
Yeah.
Pastor Shamel.
Thank you.
You're not ready to go by yourself. Take an elder with you. That's the word. The word said if you can't do it
well,
yourself,
if I take an elder with me,
take an elder.
If I take an elder with me, the elder gonna be doing what I'm doing. Because he's my brother.
Yeah, I can't go with him. That's not gonna work.
All right.
Because you already know.
Because
you'll be reading about it. Y'all be reading about us on Larry Reed's page.
Yeah, and I'm
we
gonna
done jump somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm crazy because I'll do the interview and tell my side of the story.
Yeah. Oh, Larry, let me tell you the real truth.
Bro, let me tell you what really happened, Larry, and why this person got the beat down.
Punched him in his mouth.
Oh my goodness! What an amazing conversation. Thank you, Pastor Shamel, for your insight. Thank you. Oh no, Jamel, this comment's for you. You can't deal with it either, Derek. No.
Listen,
no.
You're just like
listen. My brothers already know. Listen,
it's not gonna be good for none of us.
Man, listen, man.
If you gotta send the hounds out, send the hounds out. Keep your hands clean, Pastor.
You know what? That's wisdom. I'm going to send you an offering. I'm going to send you an offering on tonight.
Lady Freeland.
Sometimes.
Tell your husband
you cannot
that he has a wonderful wife. I'm going to say to him and you an offering. The Lord has blessed your ministry.
Oh my goodness.
You're so funny.
Okay. So that being said, let me, since this is a public platform, nobody's calling the hounds. Nobody's calling the hounds. We're not doing that. Nobody's calling the hounds.
No, it's funny
right.
joke.
I got something in my eye. All right. No, thank you, Pastor Shamel, for pinch hitting tonight. I called her just to, I pull the curtain back a little bit. I texted her last minute because my other guest couldn't get on tonight due to situations, and Pastor Jamel was working on another guest, and we couldn't get that person. And it's great when you have people who are in the bullpen who are ready to step in and to do what Pastor Freeland did today, which is help a lot of us, both male and female. And while we are dealing with the evolution of women in ministry, it's great to see that there are still some women who still have integrity, who still own whatever it is they've been through, and are willing to say, hey, you don't have to make the mistakes that I made. I want you to be better than me. And I thank God. And I mean, I'm talking not just from what she said today, but I know her life, I know her character. So I'm not speaking out of school, but I'm talking about someone who is my friend, who is my sister, who has corrected me at times. That's not your business. Y'all ain't got to know all of that. But that's the relationship that we share. We'll jump on each other's phone. Hey, can I talk to you for a second?
Yeah.
And we'll have the hard conversation with each other. And these are the types of people that you want in your life. these are the type of people that you want to keep. Unfortunately, we live in a hypersensitive world where immediately now people think that as soon as you're trying to help them by correcting them, that you're hating on them. But it's good to know there's certain people like Pastor Freeland, like Pastor Jamel, like myself, like my brother Pastor Derek, who's in the comments, who just don't care. And we're gonna say, no, I love you, and I love you enough to let you be mad at me for a little while, but I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And those are the type of people that you need. So I thank you, Pastor Shamel, for coming on tonight, for being our pinch hitter, for coming in the clutch. And you were clutch tonight. You were Steph Curry from the corner tonight, and we appreciate it. We appreciate it, and the world is better. The people who have tuned in on our 3 platforms, both of my personal page, 4 platforms, my personal pages, my 2 personal pages, our Facebook, my Living Water Christian Center Facebook Live page, and also our YouTube page. They're blessed because of what you did. I know you might have looked at one page and didn't see a whole lot of people, but they're spread across 4 pages, so it's definitely a lot of folks on here. But we're appreciative of you. And I don't know what your schedule holds, but we're doing the final part of the evolution of women in ministry next week. Next week, Dr. Shayna Utse will be back with us. Dr. Shayna Utse will be back with us. And if you're not busy, Pastor Freeland, I would love to hear the dialogue between the two of you. I think that would be amazing because she's an amazing mind. You are an amazing mind. And I would love me and Pastor Jamel probably just sit back and just let y'all talk the whole show.
I love her too. I love
Pastor
her.
Jamel was like, yeah, that's good.
She is an amazing mind.
She's going to be with us next week, and if your schedule permits, we would love to have you back as we close this thing out. And I want to close it out with 2 young women that I trust. So we're going to prepare to close out for tonight. As we do here in the River of Living Water, we allow our guests to have part of the final say. So, Pastor Freeland, take it away.
God bless you all again. Thank you, Bishop Designate, and thank you, Pastor Jamel, for having me on tonight. It was my pleasure to be here, and it is my prayer that if you are struggling tonight with being a better person to other people, don't worry about what people have done to you. Just make sure you don't do to other people what you don't want or what you didn't want to happen to you. Be the change in the world that you really want to see. And I promise you that you will not have to stress yourself out about trying to fit into somebody else's mold. God made you, He loves you, and He wants you to be the best you that you can be, mistakes and all. So just be real with yourself and be authentic, and the rest will follow. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sister, again. And I can't wait for next week. I think it's going to be amazing. Pastor Jamel?
Thank you.
I thank God for this show. I thank God for this woman of God because she definitely ministered to me during this show. And more than anything, I want women to know that you are not in a competition. Your voice can never be matched by a male's voice. Just like a woman cannot say what a man can say in that voice, in that tenor. Understand you are never in a competition. Your voice is necessary. Your voice is so necessary. And not only is it necessary, but your voice is healing. And we need that healing, especially in today's society with so much going on. That healing is so necessary. I want to say that to each and every woman, that you are loved, you are cherished, and yes, you are put on a pedestal. You are put on a pedestal because as much as I love us as men, men cannot do for another man what women can do for a man. You guys represent so much. You guys represent so much. You guys are actually the architects of so many wonderful plans that has put our world together. And we thank God for you women. We thank God for you women, not just in ministry, but mothers, aunts, cousins, nieces, and we just thank you because you guys really put things into perspective. You know, as men, we see things in such a big way. We have such big dreams, big goals, lofty ambitions, but you guys actually have the plan. You guys actually have the detail, and we love you for it. Thank you. And thank you, Bishop Designate, for just being used by God to bring this woman of God on the show, because God knows her voice walked heavy tonight. Thank you.
It absolutely did, and it was definitely the leading of the Lord. Like, I didn't just call her because she's my sister. I could, not for nothing, again, pulling the curtain back, quite honestly, this is my sister. I could have her on the show whenever I feel like it. But literally, when the guests that we had lined up couldn't make it, immediately God spoke to my spirit, and she and I were texting about something else earlier, and I kind of texted her back like, "Hey, what you doing tonight?" Because I had no idea that this was going to be healing for you. So I thank God for her being able to come on and being obedient to the Spirit and being open to our relationship, to being able to step in and to help out, not knowing that she was going to be able to help you in this way. I thank you both. I appreciate you both, and I'm looking forward to next week. The final word tonight is very, very simple. Women are the backbone of any kind of spiritual experience you want to have. Think about it from the terms of how woman was created according to Scripture. One man was put to sleep. He was put into a sedated state. A rib was pulled out of him, and then God formed and shaped a woman out of the rib of that man. While man was made from the dust, God took his time and didn't just speak a woman to existence, but he crafted her. Our brother Derek said something that I hold to be very true, especially where it comes to women of color. There is something on the inside of a woman of color that cannot be matched by anything or any force. A woman of color can lead a home. She can lead a business. She can be the CEO and the homemaker all in the span of 8 hours in a day. I know our Pastor Shamel said that she's not Superwoman, but I want to salute her and all the other women of color who are a part of our lives. You are Superwoman. And don't let anybody or anyone ever diminish the greatness that God put in you. Yeah, I know the scripture says that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and God was talking to all of us when he said it. But I just kind of believe that when he said it, he was really thinking about his creation of a woman. You are not only fearfully and wonderfully made, but you are the reason that a man gets up in the morning most days. You are the reason why life happens. You're the reason why your children are blessed. Just go and read Proverbs 31 if you don't believe me. King Lemuel, who we all know was Solomon as well, talks about the things that his mother taught him. And then from verses 10 to 31 goes on to extol the virtue of his woman, of his mother, of a woman who is praised within the gates, whose children call her blessed, whose husband doth truly trust in her. That is what a woman brings to a table. So women, keep evolving, keep getting better, keep getting stronger. Be exactly who God called you to be, and don't let nothing or nobody diminish what you are. Stand in your womanhood. You're a queen. Go ahead and adjust your crown. You've been watching River of Living Water. Thank you. Tune in next week. Dr. Shayna Utse and Pastor Shamel Freeland. This is Pastor Dilo. I'm out.
I'm going